I'm going to give you a messaging shift that you can apply directly into your content or any marketing that you do to help you increase the amount of leads that you can get from any post, any ad, any email that you send, just by changing the words that you are using. And so there's a couple important principles for you to grasp right out of the gate today. Is that there are 1.1 billion posts being published every day across the internet per a Google Analytics study. And this is freaking wild to me. There is more information that people are seeing on a daily basis than it took for probably 50 to 60 years back in the day. And so people are over bombarded with information. Information, dare I say, is a commodity. And so if you're just posting on social media, hoping to get leads, it's a long road. In fact, Google also and Meta has echoed this. They've done a study that shows that the average person needs to consume around 7 hours of content before they're ready to make a purchasing decision from a brand. And so if you're just hoping to get a post read or a reel seen and that accumulate the 7 hours, you could be waiting a long time. This is why a lot of people are struggling right now to be able to get leads, to be able to get people, at least qualified people, to opt into their stuff. And so the second principle that I want you to grasp here, and this is going to feed us into what I'm going to show you today, is that there is a famous marketer who once said, if you can articulate the problem better than they can, meaning your ideal client, they're going to automatically assume that you have the solution. And so when you can understand this concept, when most of your competitors won't, and you could communicate the problem, the things that they're going through, the symptoms, the pains, the things they're complaining about to their friends, the desires they want, the aspirations they want, when you can articulate that better than they can actually articulate it to other people, they're going to be like, he or she has to have the solution to my problem. And in fact, you'll see this with a good doctor. Like I've shared this story multiple times to my clients and in trainings that I've done, to where I had developed a rash. And this is TMI. I developed a rash when I was in Arizona at an event. And I didn't know what it was, if it was from the dryness, because I'm here in humid Florida. I didn't know if it was the dryness of Arizona. But nonetheless, I came back home and I called Teladoc because I don't have time to go to a doctor. And not that I want to. And the Teladoc, yeah, take this cream. It's going to be fine. It's going to go away. Didn't really ask much. I was just like, cool. And then it got worse. It started spreading. It started getting worse, more red, all that stuff. And my wife, being smarter than me, was like, hey, you should call a dermatologist. And so I did. And this dermatologist started to describe my problems before I even said anything. He was like, hey, and he basically nailed it. Every single symptom, everything. And I was like, he's got to have the solution. I instantly trusted him more. And then we can do this with our audience. It's going to massively help. And so I'm going to show you some of the frameworks that I've used that have helped in hopes that it's going to help you. The last principle that I want you to grasp here is, because information is so commoditized, because the market is quote unquote saturated, people have heard the same messages. They've heard the same promises. They've heard the same claims over and over again by brands like yours, and maybe brands that aren't like yours, but they've heard similar messages being thrown to them. And so for you to be able to stand out, for you to be able to get your message seen, and to really build that trust with your audience and to create that intrigue, your message has to be persuasive. It has to be influential. And the way you make it influential, the way you make it stand out, is by having some kind of big idea or unique mechanism that you can bring into the marketplace that gets people to be like, I haven't really tried that. And you've got to be able to sell that, right? You got to sell people on why your idea, why your way of doing things is the right way. And if you go all throughout history, you could see people from even Jesus preaching the word of God, right? All the way from like presidents and from politicians and from actors and actresses and great influencers of our time. They have all used these principles of persuasion and influence. And the way you do that, I'm going to walk you through a couple strategies here over the next few minutes, but this is a big thing, right? So the big things, there's information's a commodity. You got to articulate the problems better than they can. And you have to be able to have some kind of big idea or unique idea and persuasively and influentially be able to communicate that so you get people to want to buy your stuff. Now, But that being said, I'm going to share this framework with you. This comes directly from my paid client school community. If you want to learn about how you can get access to the school community inside of our, what it's called our in-demand coach program, the link will be below for you to be able to explore that. But for today's purposes, I'm going to walk you through this, and I will have a free download for you below with the whole magic messaging framework that I'm going to walk through. Now, let me just zoom in on this. Okay. As we already said, what most people are doing is spending hours each week going live, executing tactics, posting content, putting out videos, but they're still struggling with inconsistent leads or perhaps unqualified sales calls that are booked. They're getting content that's getting likes and engagement, but not really converting into clients. And there's messaging that is confusing instead of converting. And they're feeling out of alignment, or like you're copying somebody else. Maybe you see somebody else's messaging that's working really well, but it's not converting for you. And sales are feeling hard, awkward, or rare. It's like it's super inconsistent. And one of my mentors, he has a line that I love where he says, the weaker your marketing, the harder sales will be. So if you're out there doing tactics like freaking DMing 50 to 100 people a day, like the gurus teach, or you're just like out there finding that you got to really sell people, it's because you have weak marketing. But when you have strong marketing, sales start to become easier, right? Because your marketing, your messaging is doing the heavy lifting. And so this is part of what I'm going to call what I call my magic messaging framework. And this is a 8-part process that I walk all of my clients through. And when you do this correctly, you're building messaging that speaks the right words. And when you say the right words in the right way to the right people, and I'll show you in a second, even in the right order, because when you're creating content, you got to have a good headline or a good title for your video or a good hook, right? You got to share your story or bits and pieces of story. You got to share insights. You got to have a call to action. So there isn't even a right order to this stuff. You're going to start getting more people to raise their hand on your stuff or to opt in or to DM you. And you'll be able to keep your calendar full of sales calls. You'll turn engagement into dollars easily when you do this effectively. When you do this right, it aligns with you. It's your truth. It's easy to communicate because it's coming from you. You don't need to chat GPT anything. It's going to come directly from your soul because it's your message. It's your lived experience, right? And it makes it easy for dream clients to say yes because you're speaking the right words to the right people. And I'm going to show you how to move people from point A, where they're struggling, to point B, the after. And of course, when you use the big idea and the unique mechanism correctly, it's going to position you uniquely as the one right and only solution. And what we don't need now is more volume, right? Because you could say the wrong message 1,000 times and never get a response. But if you say the right message once, your perfect prospect will raise their hand. Okay? And so, gone are the days of posting and praying, just putting out quote unquote value-driven content and hoping that it works. Instead, we want to create content that cuts through the noise, right? That captivates the right people and positions us as that go-to expert. And so there are a few things that I'm going to walk you through right now. The first part of what I call the magic messaging framework is there's 7 layers I'm going to show you. There's actually an 8th layer that we recently added, which I'll give you some sneak peek insight into right now. But the first piece here is what I call the character and conflict. So the character and conflicts is going to be, who is your dream client and what are they really struggling with? Look, the thing is, like, most people have a version of this down, but it's super vanilla. It's still vague. It's a little bit confusing, and it's coming from more of coach speak versus what's actually going on in that person's head. I believe it was Dan Kennedy, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I think it was Dan Kennedy who says you have to enter the conversation in your customer's mind. And that kind of goes back to the principle of, if you can articulate the problem better than they can, they'll assume you have the solution. Once you know who that dream client is, and I'm not talking about a niche, I'm not talking about a sub niche, I'm talking about an actual freaking human being. So I know for me, a dream client is somebody that's already in motion inside of their health or fitness business, right? They are already getting clients, they've made some money, but they're having some inconsistency in their business, right? They're not just starting from scratch. They've got something going. They just don't know. They haven't figured out how to crack the code. They don't know what's missing. there's unpredictability, and they're looking for help. And that's my perfect client because I know that world like the back of my hand. After 13 years of business, I've realized like that was the thing I solved for myself. And out of all of the 387 coaches that I personally have helped, the ones that have got the best results are in that kind of range because I can show them how to fix their messaging, how to establish lead nurture systems, content systems, conversion processes. But I can show them how to apply simple systems to be able to create consistency and predictability. So the more specific, concrete, and tangible you can make your communication of the problems that people are facing, the actual symptoms that they're experiencing in real life, the things they're complaining about to their coworkers or to their friends or to their family, and also to the things that they believe to be true. Maybe they believe their genetics are messed up, or maybe they believe if they, in the weight loss space, if they just diet again or cut their calories to 600, they're going to automatically see the most amazing weight loss results ever. Whatever they are doing and believing, you want to get specific on that and call it out. And that kind of feeds us into the struggle story, right? This is why they're stuck and why other things haven't worked. So if, for example, so in my fitness business, people were struggling with getting rid of that last 10 to 20 pounds of stubborn belly fat. And I got really specific on all the things that were going on with them. And I knew that they were trying the traditional diets and they were trying to do more cardio. They were hiring personal trainers. And they were just like, man, maybe it's my metabolism. Maybe it's my genetics. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older and this is how life's supposed to be. And so I was able to really speak to that stuff. And I explained to them why things weren't working is because they were trying to eat healthy, but they weren't eating right. And this is going to move into something I'm going to teach you in just a second around belief shifting, right? But I explained to them why this was happening. And they were like, oh, and they automatically were like, tell me more, Jason. And this goes into the next phase of the villain in the turning point. What's really causing the pain? And what's your unique insight? What's your unique way, which we're going to get into, that changes everything? And so nobody wants to feel stupid, man. Nobody wants to feel like they're wrong. And so one of the most powerful, persuasive, and influence tactics that you can use is to put a villain out there. It's like in any movie or a great story, there's an antagonist and then there's a protagonist. If you think about Batman, imagine in the series Batman, if there was just a bunch of bad guys running around this city called Gotham and they were robbing the place, you'd be like, that sounds bad, but it wouldn't really give much to the story. You would be like, who's at fault here? Who's going to stop them? Now, all of a sudden, you start putting faces and names to the characters like Bane, this guy with a mask who lives under the sewers. You got Penguin, this dude that just has an umbrella, right, and walks like a penguin. You got Joker and freaking just starts laughing, and like you got the great. All of a sudden, now there's like more merit to it. Now you're like, Gotham's not a bad city. There's just these like lunatics that are running around that have their own individual stories. And so you want to name the villain. So for me, my ideal clients named the villain for me. They were like, we have a broken metabolism. And I was like, but they named the villain. There could be like what I used to call it, the restrictive diet trap. This is not going to solve stubborn belly fat. And so you name the villain, right? I have the content commodity trap because information's a commodity now, right? I have the inconsistency trap of people not having the right system. So you name them and it makes it more real for people. And then you start to infuse bits and pieces of your story in here. And that gets people to have the insights that you have had. And this now paves the way to your unique solution. This is going to be your big idea, your way, your maybe signature framework, or your unique mechanism. And this is important because once you've done the first few right, now they're like on board. You're helping them throw rocks at their enemies. You have articulated the problem so well. They're like, he has to have the solution or she has to have the solution. And then bada bing, bada boom, you got the solution. And most people are most people are still following very outdated. They're just like naming some shit, but they go into Chat GPT. They're like, help me name my solution. And it's like the mom method. Don't be lame like this. It's not going to work. You know what I'm saying? Now, the name of this is not that important, but it has to come from your truth. And so an example, when I was running my fitness business, I had a gym before. If you don't know my story, I had a gym for 7 years and sold it and then ran an online fitness business. In my online fitness business, I had what I called the stubborn fat solution. And it was a very clear name, right? Which is, you don't need to make it cute. You don't need to make it clever. You just need to make it clear on what it does. And I had frameworks. I named my framework. So I had a way of eating. I called it the Flex Fuel Nutrition Framework. I had a way of working out. I called it metabolic resistance training. I had a way of getting into people's mindsets. So I called it inner sizes, right? I had my own unique ways of doing things. And this allowed me to be able to bridge the gap, and people felt hope and they wanted to try my solutions. And I'll show you how to get people into those solutions in a minute, but that is absolutely key. Nowadays, I have what's called the In-Demand Coach Operating System, and it's comprised of our magic messaging framework, which I'm walking you through bits and pieces of it now. I have our strategic content ecosystem, where I teach people how to post the right words in the right content cadence so they get more lead. We have our value first conversion system. This is where we teach people how to convert with value first methods like video and live masterclasses and workshops and so forth. Then we have what I call our scale and freedom blueprint. This is where I literally show people how to create very simple SOPs and systems for them to be able to have the infrastructure to delegate things so they can scale and grow and step back into their zone of genius. And so basically, I've just taken all of the things that I'm already doing that I have lived experience from. I'm not making crap up. I'm just putting a very simple name to it. And the more important part here is that you have the big idea around it. And so the big idea that encompasses what I teach now is that you shouldn't have to chase leads. It's about inbound marketing. It's about making your messaging and your content do the heavy lifting for you. In that way, you're able to build your business around your unique gifts, your zone of genius, your story, and your unique message. That's what the whole big idea is around my brand. And I've just mechanized it. Does that make sense? So this is a bigger topic. I could probably do a whole video on this. In fact, when I work with people one-to-one or inside of our impact circle, this is typically where I'm spending the most time helping people, because if you get this wrong, like, you're going to be beating your head against the wall, but you get this right, and oh my God, it makes your life so much easier. And then after this, you have the transformation story. So this is the identity and life that your clients aspire to be, the before and the after. Alex Hormozi came out with an amazing book, the Purple Offer Bible, they call it. And it's a great book, but so many people just became coaches overnight and offering services, and they have these like crazy guarantees and all of this, in my experience, bullshit. And if I'm being honest, people have been just fed down like these lies. And even if they're not lies, there's these like big promises of, I'm going to show you how to lose 50 pounds in the next 90 days, or you don't pay. Or it's, I'm going to show you how to get to 10K a month. And then you jump in and they're like, yeah, just call DM 125,000 people a day and dance on TikTok and you're going to be fine. And come on, man. And so that's not how stories go. And to me, it's a little dishonest. And so what I believe to be true, and this is part of what our messaging is all about, is being able to walk people through a transformation story, right? So when somebody comes to me, I'm like, hey, first, I'm going to show you how to get your messaging dialed in so you say the right words in the right way to the right people. That's going to help you start getting more of the right people to opt in, to raise their hand on your call to actions, to DM you. And then we're going to put a content ecosystem in place so that I can show you how to start posting the right words into the right content cadence. And once you do that and you mix it between short and long form content, you're going to start getting more of the right people to respond to your content. So now you're going to have more inbound leads consistently because we put a system in place, right? And then we're going to put the conversion system in place so you could step into your zone of genius. You can convert through teaching people, through giving value first. I'll show you how to actually put together a presentation so that you can literally convert people from a live training or masterclass. And many of our clients have signed 5 to 10 clients in 1 week because of this. And then we put a system around it so you can get 5, 10, 15 clients every single month. Then I'm going to show you how to, so you see what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden people can see, because this is the truth, this is what happens. Now they could see, cool. Once you get this all in place, now you can start hitting consistent 20, 30, 40, 50K months because of this, right? That's how it goes. The before and the after. You want to walk people through the short, medium term, and long form that ultimately lead them to that dream outcome. And then these two we probably won't go into today. This is more of a messaging toolkit that I give all of my clients. I show them how to take all of their messaging, how to update their bios, their content, their offers, their VSLs, everything that they're doing. This is like where the rubber meets the road. Obviously, this is a whole nother video in and of itself. And then the last thing here that I'll give you is the guide positioning. And then I want to show you how to infuse story into this. And then we'll wrap this baby up. And I'm hoping this has been super helpful and valuable. Your guide positioning, credibility, your backstory, and why you are the right person. So this is segueing into the last piece, which is your story. Dude, the one thing that's going to separate you outside of having a unique message and stuff is your story. Your story is literally your superpower. Most of the time, we are just serving a past version of ourselves. So like, I'm largely, now I serve way more than health and fitness, but health and fitness professionals are my specialty. And many people connect to my story because I was a personal trainer. I ran a gym. I had boot camps. I freaking had an online fitness business. I've gone through the whole gamut. And so I could tell that story and people connect with it and I understand them. Like for whatever reason, you're not serving you never were your niche. Like you're a dude and you're serving women. You just need to have some, like, why? Like I would ask why. There's probably some kind of story to why you're doing what you're doing. You want to share that, right? And you want to make sure you're sharing client stories so people can connect to it. Okay. Otherwise, people aren't going to buy into you if they don't connect to why you're doing what you're doing, and there's no resonance. They're going to assume this person's just trying to make money. Why are they trying? For example, if it's a guy trying to help women, why are you trying to help women? Like, why? Just tell the honest truth, right? And obviously the storytelling principles, which is key. But here's where I want to lead you. Your message is the engine, right? You're not just creating content, you're crafting words that move people. And so the two big ideas I want to give you, if you paid attention to this whole magic messaging framework, is based off of narrative. This is how people think in terms of stories. Why do you think storytelling is one of the greatest skills that you can learn in not just 2020, but in ever? Think about, like, people resonate with stories. And so the whole framework I built off of storytelling. And the second big idea that I want to give you here is you want to find that core belief. If you think about content is very surface level. Messaging is the structure to how you create really compelling and enticing content that captivates and converts. But the belief is the lever that moves people to action. When you shift the core belief, you create demand, trust, and sales. That's what this framework is intended to do. And so the belief that I am always trying to shift in people, back when I was in fitness, it's not about eating. It's not about eating just healthy. It's about eating right. And then I went to work at shifting that belief by telling stories, sharing case studies, using metaphors and analogies, really just becoming the attorney for that belief, right? My belief today is that it's not about just posting content, like that your message is the 5% that produces 95% of the results. So if your messaging isn't dialed in, I don't give a crap how many ads you run, you're going to waste tons of money. And believe me, I've been the behind the scenes and I've helped 7, 8, 9-figure brands with their messaging and their videos. And I've been able to see firsthand with large numbers, the increase in conversions when messaging is dialed in, right? It's how you do your hooks, how you do your call. So I go to work at selling that belief. See, I'm always in there because I believe it. It comes out of my soul. I believe it to be true. So I'll tell my own stories. I'll tell client stories. I'll share metaphors and analogy all day until I'm blue in the face. And so that's the most important thing that you can think about. The big idea here is that your messaging is built around literally 2 things. Actually, 4 things. You got to sell people on your story. right? You got to sell people on your story. You got to sell people on the fact that you understand, you can articulate the problems better than that they can. So they automatically assume that you have the solution. You've got to sell people on your unique way of doing things. This is what's going to help you stand out. And you've got to be able to sell people on social proof. Because none of this is about manipulation, this is all about influence, and people aren't going to be influenced if you have no proof, right? So find the core belief, tell your story, and make your messaging powerful. And the download will be down, or you can get a free download down below. Hopefully it'll just help you out. You can have something to go off of, and we'll chat soon. Bye for now.